Good afternoon and welcome to Downtown Rotary. If we haven't met before, my name is Tony Norm, immediate past president, and I have the honor of presiding today as President Cindy Peterson will be our moderator. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you remain standing, and I'll ask Andy Patterson to come forward and provide our invocation.
Please bow with me. Lord, we thank you for this day and the opportunity to gather as a Rotary Club as we celebrate this season and the many gatherings of food and friends. We know there are many who are struggling with the lack of each. We ask for your provision for those without food and comfort for those who are lonely. Show us how we might be used by you in meeting those needs. And Lord, as we prepare to hear from the Butterfly House and Zoo today, it reminds us of the variety and goodness of your creation. We thank you for it and ask that you teach us how to be good stewards of what you've made. Bless our time together and the food we're eating. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, I'd ask that you join me in reciting the four-way test behind me here. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. You may now be seated. All right, I want to welcome our guests and thank our greeters. We have the month off from junior Rotarians, but we look forward to welcoming new students back in January when they're back in school and able to join us. A couple reminders in this morning's email, December 19th, Spirit of Rotary. I would ask that you RSVP for that. There should be a link on that email, and we do need to get an estimate of those that will be in attendance. So thank you for that. Also, Dwayne Walk, Rotary West, is selling raffle tickets for 100 bottles of wine. You might be familiar with this. They've done that in years past. It will benefit the Boys and Girls Club. That raffle will take place on the 16th, so time is running near. Get with Dwayne after Rotary today and be happy to get you a raffle ticket for that. In addition, Downtown Rotary is staffing the Children's Inn gift wrapping booth at the Sioux Empire Mall, and that is happening December 18th. There's a couple hour and a half time slots. Either connect with Angie this week, or there's a sign-up sheet in the back. We need volunteers to staff that, and I look forward to seeing you there. In addition, right here, we are collecting new packages of warm winter socks for the benefit of the Bishop Dudley House and the residents that stay there. We are going to be collecting those socks through the month of December, and we'll be delivering those in advance of Christmas so they can be distributed to those folks at the Bishop Dudley House. So I want to encourage you to do that. Also want to encourage Mr. Joel Sylvester, our membership chair, to come forward. He is going to provide an update on membership, and we're nearing halfway through the Rotary year, so looking forward to hearing from Joel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. So, like Tony said, we're halfway through the year, or just about halfway through the year. So I just wanted to give a quick update on membership, some numbers that I think we probably all know, but is kind of a good reminder. So first off, the membership team, we have really good attendance today, so that's good. Matt Paulson, Olivia Essig, Vicky Stewart, Kathy Thorson, Stephen Williamson, Rick Mellner, and Dan Doyle. So the team has been meeting and walking through a couple of different things. I'll give you some stats, and then I'll talk about some of the things that we've been doing, and then some things that we're going to ask from the membership. So we started July 1st with 308 members. Our goal is to grow membership by 5% this year. So the goal is to end the year at 325. On average, over the last couple of years, we've lost about 10% per year, so 30 to 35 members that decide not to join Downtown Rotary going forward. So using that average, we know we need to add about 48 members this year. And we've also got focus on retention, but we know we want to add about 48 members to get us to that 325. In 2022, we actually added 48 members, but we lost 32. But we did see a 5% increase in 2022. So want to maintain that. If you guys remember some of the things we've talked about with Rotary International, is overall a lot of the clubs are seeing decreases in membership. So we think that 5% is an aggressive number, but obviously Sioux Falls is growing, and Sioux Falls Downtown Rotary is one of the ones leading the way. As far as stats go, we are currently the 22nd largest club in the world. We with our 308 members. We are only 2 behind Bangalore, India. So if we can pick up an additional 2 members, we can get to that 21st spot. We're 17 behind Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 19 behind Bombay, India, and 21 behind Seattle, Washington. So I really want to look at that, get in that top 20, and then we can look ahead as far as that goes. One thing that, as the membership committee has been meeting, I think is a good reminder for this group is really what the qualifications are. So if you guys look at that membership form, so if you've invited a new member to join, the qualifications are engaged as a proprietor, partner, corporate officer, or manager of any worthy, recognized business, profession, or community organization. Or, it's not and, there's really kind of 4 things that we've outlined as membership. So it's or, not and. Hold a position of responsibility in an executive capacity with discretionary authority in any worthy, recognized business, profession, or community service organization. Or perform the primary local agent or branch representative, or is considered a thought leader in our community and is clearly working to make a lasting impact on the community. So these have been updated a little bit over the last several years, but something that I would just really ask for you guys to think about. So as a membership committee, some of the strategies we have and things we're looking at is really clarifying those qualifications and looking at some other groups throughout Sioux Falls, organizations that are maybe part of the chamber or part of Forward Sioux Falls, or part of organizations like the United Way that are really investing in the Sioux Empire and should be at the table with us. So I would encourage all of you to do the same. Think about people that you know that are maybe new in their role at an organization, or new to Sioux Falls, or an organization that's new to Sioux Falls, that really needs to know what downtown Rotary is and the things that we're offering. So if you guys remember, about 5 months ago when Laura Dugard Laura Mitchell handed the reins over, she made everybody stand up and kind of shame one another. For those that hadn't brought a guest, I'm not going to do that yet. Okay, I'll be back in February. So I'm just going to give you guys all a warning that I'll be back in February. But I would encourage all of you to think about those with those qualifications that can really help us continue to grow the group, continue to make a difference both locally and internationally, and invite them. I think the best way to get somebody interested in Rotary is invite them and have them see the group, hear the messages, and then invite them for membership. So my challenge to all of you is in the next 60 days. So we've got all of the rest of this year, and then we'll start January, is to really look to invite at least one guest in that time, and ideally follow up with that guest for membership. So as we look, again, we're halfway through the year. I know there are people out there that meet those qualifications that aren't here. So the membership group will continue to kind of look for those and do what we can. But as I look at this group and all of the reach that you guys have, if we all kind of pitch in and try to get that one, we'll be coming for Bombay, India before you know it. So thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Good company. Sioux Falls, once again, probably out punching its weight. Appreciate your leadership as we forge forward. And membership is one of our pillars, one of our keys to success, and part of building a stronger community and stronger Sioux Falls. Now I'm going to ask Eric Erickson and Nate Welch to come forward, and we're going to get a chance to introduce our newest downtown Rotarian.
I'd outrun him with those shoes on. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. It's always a pleasure to introduce somebody that you probably know better than you know me, but that's my job today, to introduce Nate Welch, our newest downtown Rotarian. He's definitely worked to make a lasting impact on Sioux Falls and in South Dakota, and most recently in Vermilion. You probably recognize the I Love Vermilion guy most recently, but Nate Welch is marketing director now for the South Dakota Governor's Office of Economic Development. He has been a Rotarian with Vermilion Rotary for the last 8 years. He's originally from Sioux Falls, graduated from Roosevelt High, also attended college at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln and USF. Nate passionately, just like the way he dresses and does his hair, he passionately supports everything that he's a part of. He's been a founding member of YPN. He'd served on boards, organizations like National Music Museum, the Washington Pavilion, Volunteers of America. And even if you don't recognize his face, you might recognize his moves from his time as KG, the mascot with the Canaries, Herbie the Husker for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He shares work experience with a recent candidate for governor. He was Wilbur the Coyote at Gigglebees, too. So Nate and his wife, Krista, have 3 kids, and I encourage you to welcome our newest Rotarian, Nate Welch.
I'm setting my timer for you, Madam President. Thank you very much, Eric. And yes, I did wear my special shoes for the day. I love wearing good shoes on a special day, kind of as a dress up. Thank you very much for the introduction, Eric. I'd like to just answer a couple of the questions as they had mentioned on our introduction. And again, I've set my timer at 2 minutes because I know that there's a good hook for me. There were two questions I think that many of you have also answered on your first day when you were introduced as a member, and it was, why did you join, and what do you look forward to? And I honestly can't think of how to answer that other than I think of the story of C.S. Lewis and the Inner Circle. So stick with me for a second on it as I mention it. If you haven't read it, or if you haven't read about that, the Inner Circle ultimately talks about an inner circle is exclusivity. But there's two ways of which you can get to exclusivity. You can either exclude people by pushing them out so that you make your circle tight, or you can stand and operate at a higher standard in which those operations and those who can only stay in that high expectation and that high morale can actually stay in that inner circle. I think about the Downtown Rotary Club, and I think about the fact that I grew up on the west side of town in the exact same house that, in fact, I'm staying in while I start moving my transition up here to Sioux Falls. I think about the downtown when my dad worked here, and I would come down and hang out with him on Saturday afternoons. I think about watching our community grow. And the Downtown Rotary was always a place of honor and was always a place that had some of the best leaders in our community. And I look right now, even at this table, and I could probably even pick at least one individual at every single table that I've been honored enough to be able to work with, but even more so that your words to me have imprinted on me and have developed me. I've always been proud of being able to say I'm a Sioux Falls kid, and I'm sincerely proud and excited to be able to come home. But of the most, I'm so honored to be able to be part of that inner circle of which the Downtown Rotary is part of. So with that, I simply want to say, I promise I'll do everything I can for that 4-way test, because I really do trust and I really do believe in those words. And I really do believe in the good that each and every one of us can do and make a difference on the next generation. And I'm honored to be a small little portion of that. And I'm so excited to be able to also grab a few free lunches when I get Cindy to pay for it. All right. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you, Eric, and welcome, Nate. Can't keep up with your shoe game, but super excited to call you a friend and have you be part of Downtown Rotary. And you can see why he was chosen for the role in selling our state and marketing. His ability to cast the vision is real. With that, I'm going to ask our moderator and panelists to come forward and join me on the stage. And while I'm doing that, I am going to share background on our panelists today. First one, as a fellow Rotarian, Downtown Rotarian Becky Dewitz has served as CEO of the Great Plains Zoo since October of 2020. She has worked in the zoo industry since 2006 and has a passion for wildlife education, conservation, and animal well-being. Prior to moving to Sioux Falls, she was zoo director at the Roosevelt Park Zoo in Minot, North Dakota, where she led several development projects, including new habitats for African lions, Umor tigers, okapi, and a new children's zoo. First time I've read a bio that had Umor and okapi. I hope I didn't kill those too bad. Her father is a Lutheran pastor. We'll have to talk about that. We have that in common. And his ministry took their family to many places in the Midwest, which included living in Faith and Clear Lake during her childhood years. Becky attended college at South Dakota State University. She is married to Neil, and the two have 2 children, a daughter, Drew, and a son, Alice. She enjoys time in nature and long walks with her chocolate lab. Welcome, Becky. Also joining us on stage is Audrey Otto-Pepper, has served as the Chief Executive Officer at the Butterfly House and Aquarium since 2011. She grew up in Nebraska and has called Sioux Falls home for over 20 years. Audrey attended Augustana University, worked as a primate keeper at the Great Plains Zoo, and then earned a master's degree in environmental education at Washington State University. Audrey has been with the Butterfly House and Aquarium for over 13 years and loves sharing her passion for environmental education and conservation with the community. She lives on an acreage with her husband, Thomas Pepper, and their corgi, Jane. please help me in providing a warm Rotary welcome to our panelists, Becky and Audrey. All right, I'll now turn it over to Cindy Peterson for a conversation on collaboration.
For me to sit in the moderator chair. Over the past year, the Butterfly House and Aquarium and Great Plains Zoo explored the possibility of a formal partnership with the guiding principle of better serving the community, animals, and staff. That's what we're here to talk about today. So for some background, the Zoological Society of Sioux Falls was formed in 1957, opening the Great Plains Zoo and Delbridge Museum of Natural History in 1963. It is currently home to 500 plus animals from 120 plus species. The Butterfly House and Aquarium opened in 2002 as a butterfly conservatory, adding aquariums in 2011. It is currently the only public saltwater aquarium in the Dakotas and one of the few year-round butterfly houses in the Midwest. I have spent many a day in both of your facilities with my children and just think they're wonderful places to be. But I'm guessing not everyone in this room has been in either of your facilities. Not everyone has been in your facilities in the last 12 months, 6 months, 3 months. Each of you give us a snippet of how your organization exists today. Give us that high-level piece, number of visitors, major funding partners, key features. Bring us all up to speed. Audrey, you want to go first?
Yeah, so the Butterfly House and Aquarium, we're located in Sertoma Park. And like Cindy said, we opened back in 2002, but today we have aquariums and butterflies. So when you walk through our facility, you are going to experience animals from the ocean, including coral reefs, jellyfish. We have stingrays, tide pools, really exposing everyone to the ocean here in our landlocked state. And then, of course, our staple, the Butterfly Conservatory, where you walk with over 800 free-flying butterflies. It's a relaxing and peaceful space. We really want people to connect with nature, but also to learn and heal with nature because it's such a unique experience, especially for us in the Midwest. On a day like today, it's going to be 80 degrees with the butterflies. Even when it's 0 out, it's 80 degrees with the butterflies, so you can't go wrong there. Our annual budget is $1.6 million. We are funded entirely by admissions, memberships, gift shop sales, and donations. We partner with the city with our land. We lease our land. We own our building, and the city takes care of our grounds and does our snow removal. And then the Game Fish and Parks is also a partner in the park. We have a staff of 14, and the majority of those staff members are animal care members, where they're taking care of the very intricate systems that we have for the butterflies and aquariums.
Becky.
So as, excuse me, earlier stated, it's an older zoo. So having opened in 1963, it's gone through a lot of transformation since then. Some of our most notable exhibits that we do currently have would be the Snow Monkey exhibit, which was an award-winning exhibit in 2015. The Amur Tiger area was renovated in 2006 and is also very popular. I personally love our Black Rhino exhibit, and that is an area that we do invest a lot of our time for our conservation actions in. And then from there, we have the new lion exhibit that I know many people are very excited about. So we are currently out for bid, and we'll be opening bid documents later this month and are looking forward to that very exciting addition to our zoo next summer, and so probably open in 2024. But having started in 1963 to where we are today, I have to just really touch on that city relationship, because I do look at it as such an important partnership that the Great Plains Zoo has had with the city of Sioux Falls. And it really even goes back much further than 1957 with the formation of the Zoological Society. It goes back to the 1930s and even into the late 1800s when R.F. Pettigrew had animals throughout the community of Sioux Falls. And a lot of those responsibilities were assumed by the city of Sioux Falls, which then later led to an effort of community leaders in 1957 that decided they wanted more. So it is truly a grassroots group and effort that brought our zoo to where it is today. The Delbridge was added in 1984. That was a very important addition to the zoo at that time, helped bring in that information for the natural world, showing species that we would never have here otherwise. You will never see a giant panda in the city of Sioux Falls other than what we have in the Delbridge. And I can tell you, China does make you lease those pandas, and we don't have $2 million to lease a panda, so that is not something we will have at the Great Plains Zoo. Today, we serve about 250,000 people through our programming. We also have 40,000 people we reach through our educational programming. Education is where I started my career, so it is near and dear to my heart. And I think that we can do so much more together, which we will talk about further. But it is very important for both of us. We add to the quality of life for our communities. And I look back at memorable moments. People come to our organizations, they experience, they have this natural world surrounding them when they're there, but they're often there with their families. And there are things that happen when they're there with their families that hopefully they can talk about, remember for many years after they've since left. And that is what I think is one of the most important things that we offer to our community, is an opportunity for people to just simply enjoy the natural world and make those lasting memories with their loved ones.
Love it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Those who might not know either organization very well may immediately think about tourism, think about a place for families, outgoing. You referenced all of that, but there's a significant conservation and education element to each of your missions. Can you talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
Becky, you want to give that a start?
Sure. So there's Baba Doyle is a philosopher, and I think he said it best. And I do look at this as a mission of every aquarium or zoo that is accredited. And that is that in the end, we can serve what we love what we understand, but we understand what we are taught. And it is really through that philosophy that I look at building an experience, and I'm sure Audrey can speak to the same, that we want to provide these immersive opportunities so that people do have that natural and inquisitive mind, that they become curious and they want to touch and feel and learn. And through that connection, we can grow their understanding, their appreciation, and it is only through that connection that then you can transcend it to conservation action. So as it relates to the mission-related focus, it's paramount to what we do every single day. People will not want to care for the natural world if they do not love the natural world. Our natural world will not be saved unless people care about the animals, the habitats, and the plants that exist in those areas. And like I said, that's how I started my career. So there's nothing like seeing a little kid that gets that aha moment when you're introducing them to an animal, and even an animal that may be somewhat scary, like a snake. And then you can foster that appreciation, that understanding of why that snake is so important. And a little kid will often think a snake is slimy, and then they touch it and realize that it's a very smooth creature, and they foster that appreciation right there. And seeing that firsthand is why I do what I do every day.
Talk a little bit about conservation and education at the Butterfly House and Aquarium.
Yes, for education, we know it's all about interaction as well. Like Becky referenced, if you are seeing this animal right in front of you, if you're interacting with it, it's such a more impactful experience than watching it on a screen. And so we try to create as many of those opportunities as possible, whether it's touching a sea star, having a butterfly land on you. Those are the impactful moments that will carry on into your child's memories and your family's memories. And ideally, then they go on to care more and learn more. So beyond that, inspiring conservation with our guests, we're also participating in conservation out in the field. We have several partnerships where we are out working on conservation of the Dakota skipper, which is a tiny little butterfly that is native to South Dakota, but endangered and extinct in some areas. We also work together on black-footed ferret research, going out in the field and collecting census of how many are out there living in central South Dakota and western South Dakota. And then beyond that, in the AZA world, Becky could go into more detail there with conservation efforts. For us, with our butterflies, we receive butterflies from rainforests around the world. So there are farms in Central and South America, Asia, Africa, and Australia. Those farmers raise the caterpillar. When it changes to a chrysalis, they ship them to us. And so you see the butterfly that was a caterpillar in South America. Those farms are providing sustainable income sources for locals in the area so that they are not having to resort to illegal hunting or logging. And they also invest in purchasing areas of rainforest so that those aren't exposed to deforestation.
So to add on what Audrey had said related to AZA, that's the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. We are accredited by the AZA. Very significant part of our business is dedicated to conservation. The recommended goal for AZA is to achieve 3% of your budget in conservation action. A lot of zoos and aquariums choose to show support through philanthropic support. So they're sending monies to these organizations. We are intentional. We want to send our people to experience these conservation programs and actually make a difference. Because I can tell you, zookeepers and aquarists did not come to work for our organizations just because they love the animal, but they also want to protect that animal. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to actually get boots on the ground and make a difference to these different animals' habitats. And so we work with Save the Rhino Trust with Dr. Jeff Montefiore in Namibia on black rhino work. And then additionally, we are starting to work with Dr. Jeff Montefiore on snow leopard work in Nepal. And I have 2 members there currently that'll be coming home in about 2 weeks. And this is our first trip to Nepal, using the same type of philosophies we used in Namibia, which is really to gain pride of why that black rhino species is important to Namibian culture, to the Namibian landscape. And so as you grow pride, what they have found is they're taking former poachers, turning them into rangers, providing them the economic opportunity they need to support their family. Because oftentimes poaching, illegal wildlife trade is only being done because people need to feed their kids. And so if you can provide different economic opportunities and growth, you can address those issues. And that is where we really are taking a lot of pride and beginning that same type of work in Nepal.
Each of your organizations, robust, doing great work in your own right. But on January 1st, 2023, everything changes. What is happening with these 2 organizations?
Yes, so we started in November of last year where we formed a joint exploration committee. And so we have 2 board members from each respective board, the 2 CEOs. We hired a facilitator to help us work through the process of what does this mean? Can we do more together? How do we maximize on our synergies? How do we improve on our efficiencies? Which, let's be honest, an aquarist is not a zookeeper, so there's not many overlap areas between our 2 organizations, but we really truly complement one another. And so over that course of time, and it was many months, lots of work, lots of due diligence exercises, us reviewing what we could find to be a deal breaker. And we brought our boards through that process. And as of September 27th, our boards voted unanimously to merge. And they will merge into the EIN of the zoo board. And that is specific to our contract with the city as well as our AZA accreditation. And we will have a new board of directors called the Sioux Falls Zoo and Aquarium that will operate both the Great Plains Zoo and the Butterfly House. And then we have more plans from there.
That is a big, big deal. You said the word due diligence, as I read multiple articles and had a chance to listen firsthand to some of the announcements with this transition. That language, due diligence, was used a lot when talking about the process, the decision. Audrey, walk us through that due diligence process. Who was involved with it? What did you study? And then ultimately, what did you learn to come to this decision?
Yeah, so we started off at the beginning with due diligence because we knew that we needed to make sure there wasn't anything that would potentially harm either of our organizations. We knew that this had to make sense for both Butterfly House and Aquarium and the Great Plains Zoo. Our joint exploration committee, like Becky mentioned, our 2 board members from each board and the 2 of us were a part of that process with our facilitator. But we also had our attorneys involved with the due diligence early on. So the attorneys took a look at a lot of our legal paperwork from, bylaws and other types of issues that may have come up, including insurance claims and taking a look at our financials. Both of our accounting firms took a look at our financials from both organizations in 990s. And looked at budgets. We really took a thorough look at our accreditation, especially dealing with animals. What do we need to understand with each of our permit processes and accreditations? Does it make sense for us to come together? And looking at all of those deal breakers. And fortunately, through the process, all of those things that could have been deal breakers, we were able to resolve. Something like the city agreement, having those conversations with the city. Are you okay with us coming together, and can we make this work? And I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but the city has been very supportive from the get-go. We have a lease for the land that we're on, so making sure that the city would be willing to work with us to find a solution if we would eventually move out of our building. And a big piece of that due diligence was also an operational feasibility study that we did. And that was the big thing that I think the committee members were most interested in after the attorneys came back and said, everything looks good on our end. We needed to make sure this made financial sense for both of our organizations, and we weren't jumping off into this great idea that was not going to make sense. And so we worked with Canopy Strategic Partners, formerly Zoo Advisors. They're a national group that works with zoos across the country. They took a look at what our operations would be coming together with the addition of an aquarium and butterfly conservatory, as well as additional improvements over a 10-year period. And it came back very positive and recommending that this would be a good move for both organizations and make us both stronger with greater community impact as one organization together.
You absolutely did the due diligence.
We did not want to step into something that didn't make sense. And the board members were very diligent about that as well. We, like you said, we're both very strong organizations on our own, so it really needed to make sense for us as CEOs and our board, as well as our constituents. Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the city of Sioux Falls, the Great Plains Zoo in particular, has a long time partnership with the city of Sioux Falls. At what point in that process were they looped in? And you touched on it a little bit high level, but can you give us any more insight on what was the city's reaction, their response and involvement?
John Kearney serves as ex officio on our board of directors, so he's been part of the process since day one and very aware that we were looking into this. He also, of course, does meet with Mayor Tenhaken on a pretty routine basis, and so we knew that that communication was occurring right at the get-go. And had we received any feedback from the city that they would not have been supportive of this, it would have been very important for us to consider that as part of our due diligence. Now, with the city of Sioux Falls, we have a little bit of a different relationship than what the Butterfly House has, and that is that the city of Sioux Falls does own and does own the building and the land of which the zoo exists on, but we, as the Zoological Society, operate the zoo, so we have a management contract. City of Sioux Falls does provide us an operating stipend throughout the course of a year. We did just have that increase this next budget cycle, so that is going to be $1.7 million, which helps us with essentially labor expense of the zoo. Our total budget is $4.3 million right now is where we're at. And so with that relationship, it was very important that they were a part of it from the very beginning. And so we did have meetings with the mayor as well, and then had some communications with the city councilors too.
Mm-hmm. So you described this as a merger.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what operations is going to look like. We've got two CEOs hanging out up here right now. Are there going to be two CEOs? Are there going to be two boards? What's kind of those behind the scenes elements? Bring everybody up to speed.
Yeah, we were very purposeful from the beginning that if the committee determined a merger was the best way to go, because we explored strategic partnerships, all the different types of ways to come together, this would be a merger of two equals. So even though the zoo does have a larger budget, we knew that it was important to be two equals coming together to establish a strong culture from the get-go. Our boards are coming together to create a new board. So we have 7 board members from each of our current boards that will serve on the new board. 1 ex officio, John Kearney, 2 mayoral appointees, and then 3 new board members that will be coming on to bring in fresh ideas. Their first meeting is January 5th, so they will dive in and have a lot of fun work ahead of them. Our organizational structures are merging. Fortunately, we don't have overlap or redundancies with our staff. Like Becky said, a zookeeper that takes care of tigers cannot take care of aquariums. And so those animal care teams are going to continue focusing on their specialties. And our marketing department is going to come together, development, education. All of these are really going to make our organization so much stronger. So we'll continue to work on 2 campuses until we have a new aquarium and butterfly house built on the zoo campus. We will continue to publicize ourselves as the Great Plains Zoo and the Butterfly House and Aquarium, because we don't want to create any confusion in the community. We still very much need those admissions and membership revenues to keep us going while we're on separate campuses. But our board will be the Sioux Falls Zoo and Aquarium Board of Directors. Mm-hmm.
Do your roles change at all?
Yes, we are moving into a CEO, COO structure. And so we had that conversation firsthand just between the 2 of us. And through that, we've been in lockstep looking at both of our strengths and weaknesses and how we can best serve our organization. And again, going back to what you said in the beginning, is there's the 3 pillars, and they've been our 3 anchors through all our decision-making processes. Is this good for the community? Is this good for our staff? And is this good for the animals? And so starting in January, assuming I will be employed, I would assume as the...
You're pointing at your board chair.
I am.
That's what that
2
was.
board chairs over there, by the way. But I'd become the CEO of our organization, and Audrey would serve very close lockstep with me as COO.
Well, you've used the language today. I've read about it. I think there's the logos built around that language, stronger together. That's been kind of a focal point in the media. What would you say are some of the synergies that our community, staff, animals, but thinking of our audience today, what would be some of the synergies between the 2 organizations that would positively impact our community?
I'm going to call out education first and foremost. We are limited in what we can actually provide to our community in terms of education. So when I started, the Zoo Camp program sold out very quickly. I think it sold out within 5 weeks of me arriving. And we added another 120 more spots this last year, and we sold out again. And so we know we are only limited by the amount of space we have for those zoo campers to come to the zoo and have those educational opportunities. Similarly, Butterfly House is very limited in their space and has taken a storage room and repurposed it for educational classroom space. And again, we're just limited by space. So coming together and having some intentionality as to what an education center could look like and how we can better serve our community is one area that I truly see as being stronger together. The other aspect would be to that conservation aspect of what we can do for saving animals from extinction and saving wild spaces. That's an area that we have such dedicated and passionate staff that it is, again, stronger together. As we look at the business plan, coming together made sense because we normalize some of our cash flows, or stabilize is what I should say, in the sense that we do have peak season. Everybody likes to come to the zoo in the summertime. They like to go to the Butterfly House more so in January, February, where we are a little bit of a ghost town. So again, stronger together. We are helping each other. We're bridging those gaps and strengthening our strengths by just supporting one another. And so that's where I truly see those opportunities to be stronger together. And then it's bringing in that talented staff and providing an opportunity for their professional growth so that we don't lose people. We want to keep people here. We want to attract the best of the best and keep them here. And the best way we can do that is providing them a quality work environment. And so that's something too we think that we can do stronger together and versus what you could do separately. And there's not many true zoo and aquarium business models like what we are looking at. So just that niche opportunity of what we can mean to our entire country, in my opinion, is just a wonderful opportunity. And it made sense on paper. As we also looked at that business plan, the idea of bringing our 2 organizations onto the one campus helps bolster a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement in our community. It can draw more people to our community, which helps our bottom line and allows us to continue to reinvest into our campus so that we can modernize our zoo campus and better meet the growing needs of our community. And we do have some old stuff at the zoo. So that's a very important thing, is to make sure we have that long-term sustainability through this plan.
Audrey, is there a particular opportunity you're most looking forward to as you see these organizations come together?
Yeah, I think about the value for the community, whether it's locals or tourism. We hear so many people say it makes sense. I don't want to have to choose when we're thinking of what do we do on the weekend, or we have family in town. I don't want to choose between the Butterfly House and Aquarium and the zoo. We are very similar, of course. A lot of people say, of course, this makes sense. Why didn't you do this a long time ago? And so thinking about that resource for our community members to be able to have a destination that you can go no matter what time of year it is, no matter what the weather is, there's going to be something for you to do and see, and a more valuable destination as well, to have a half-day experience to a full-day experience when you have aquariums, butterflies, zoo animals together. And then you take that out to the tourism industry, and having something that will keep people in Sioux Falls a little bit longer, maybe stay overnight one more night. That impact is very broad, and we can do more together, even with physical space, than we can on our own, which I'm sure we'll talk about more in a minute.
And I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm anticipating some curiosities among the group. So just a heads up, I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to open it up to the group to be able to ask questions, but I'm going to stay with you, Audrey, if I might, because you were the one quoted in one of the articles saying, plans are in development to undergo a major renovation at GPZ's current location over the next several years. That once the renovation is complete, there will be one consolidated campus providing a dynamic experience that features animals from land, sea, and sky, creating a remarkable destination for our community and visitors. Give us the good stuff on this major renovation.
Yes. Yeah, so the ultimate goal here is to get on the same campus and have all of our exhibits together. And we can take what we have at the Butterfly House and Aquarium and replicate it, but we could do so much more with this opportunity. And so we are looking at being able to build a larger aquarium facility than we could have if we were building at our current location, and also building a larger butterfly conservatory than what we have here. That will allow us to have a more diverse collection of features within that rainforest space as well. And so we're currently master planning to determine the best space on the zoo to put the aquarium and butterfly house, but we know we want it to be in an area that's accessible. We know that with all of this work that we're doing, we want to make sure it's accessible to all abilities, all ages and interests. This is an opportunity for us to build something for Sioux Falls that is different than anything it's ever seen. That's going to be a source of pride for our local community, to be able to have the zoo and aquarium that we all love and we all go to, as well as something that's drawing people in from the region. We certainly will never be Omaha, but we have plans for some larger aquarium exhibits that will be that wow factor that we couldn't have built in our current location. And pulling that all together, just imagine the educational experiences for your kids with those camps where they can go and learn about butterflies and the ocean and zoo animals at the same time. The possibilities are endless, and I think that's what Becky and I and our board and our staff are just so excited about.
Yeah, I see I just hear it in your voice, which is really fun. Yeah. Do you mind giving people a little flavor of the timeline? Sure. If I don't ask you, somebody's going to, so we better.
I can tell you ideal.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it's completely
that's a good
realistic.
Place to start. There you go.
Because of supply chain. But we know there's natural inefficiencies of existing on the two separate campuses. And it's just even sometimes as simple as having the ability to walk by somebody's office and have a 3-minute conversation is critical. That communication you can have at times. And when we're on the two separate campuses, it's going to take a lot of intentionality of both Audrey and I and our staff to make sure that we have strong communication. So ideally, we would like to start work on the aquarium by the end of 2024 and have it open by end of 2025, 2026. And I say ideally because it may be an 18 to 24 month time for just the construction of what we are talking about. And we're still not at that point to have those knowns determined at this point. But what I'm really excited about, as well as what Audrey just touched on, is this is not like something else. And it's not a mini Omaha, and nor do we want to be in a mini Omaha. Omaha's a great zoo. They're in the top 6. I mean, big player zoo. We don't need to be a big zoo to be a big player. And what I see this is just creating our own niche, and really make it identifiable to Sioux Falls, so that when you see somebody's picture, you can say that happened in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And even though you may see the sharks behind it and think it happened somewhere on the coast. And this is just our opportunity to shine.
That's awesome. Well, I will open it up for questions. If Rotarians have questions, we've got a hand, Governor Dugard.
Thanks. Audrey, I know you had launched an effort a couple of years ago to expand the aquarium and Butterfly House, and I lost track of where you are on that, if you have some of those gifts still in a restricted fund available for this bigger vision,
Yes,
or
we
not?
do. We do. Yes, thanks, Governor Dugard. We have $4.2 million that we've raised towards the expansion of the current Butterfly Conservatory and Butterfly Aquarium. We have used some of those dollars towards the expansion of our administrative space. That was going to be a 2-phase project, but the majority of those funds are still available for us to carry over into the work with the aquarium and Butterfly House at the zoo. So that goes into a bigger conversation of the project and funding. And so we have some of those funds from our capital campaign with Butterfly House and Aquarium that will carry over, as well as we've applied for community appeals, and we'll be finding out Thursday this week if we were selected for that. And then many other conversations with private donors, the city, as well as the state for funding. This coming together has got the interest of individuals and groups that would not have come to the table if we were doing this on our own with a smaller vision. And that's what really gets us excited is we know there's going to be some big exciting announcements coming soon. And there's going to be so much of a community buy-in with what's happening here. It's very exciting.
We've got another. Who's got the next question, I think? Go ahead.
Thank you very much for being here, Rotarian Angela Lammers. Really appreciate the exciting conversation today. And I've just got maybe a friendly question, given the spirit of the holidays. I will tell you that I gave a young family a Zoo Pass, an annual kind of membership gift, and I have never seen anyone more excited. They were just thrilled of the gift. So do you want to share a little bit about what those options are during this time that many of us are creating gifts and sharing? And then the other quick question, if you have a moment, what would be the groundbreaker? Let's pretend it's 10 years from now. What would be like for that young family that gets the Zoo Pass? What might be just a wow beyond our expectation possibility?
You bet. So Zoo Pass, thank you so much for your support. The Zoo Pass is a gift that keeps on giving, and it's pretty reasonable. For a family pass, you're going to be spending about $150 for that. And then you can go to the zoo as many times as you want. Because we know there's a need, we did launch, and it was only for a limited time, where you could add on BHA during our Black Friday sale for $15. And we had 60% of the people upgrade to do that. So we know that there's more of a need there. So we are looking at what this can mean in January and allow people upgrade options so that they can take their existing pass and upgrade it to have the pass at both locations, because it's just something that you can do with your kiddos anytime you want. And I say kiddos, but we added a senior citizen pass last year because that's a whole nother demographic of individuals that want to have a good place to go, a safe place to walk. And so we've seen that as an emerging demographic that we're trying to better meet that need as well. And so thank you so much for doing that. Now, going back to the wow factor, I think what we're doing is transformative. And so it's even hard for me, and I have all the pretty pictures that we've been working on to envision just how transformative this is for that 45-acre campus. And so having a Shark Tank is an experience that could not have otherwise happened at the existing location for Butterfly House. But we know we can do a shark tank, and we can have a tunnel, and people can walk through and have those big animals swimming all around them. But it's other animals, and I'm going to call out my friend Ryan Howlett because he asked me, what about pandas? Because one thing I have found working for 16 years in the zoo industry is everybody has their own favorite. There is not one identifiable species over another species that is kind of your flagship animal. And so we have to make sure that these animals are given their best lives, their opportunities to thrive in quality habitats that are enriching. And so whether that be a shark or a red panda or an African lion or a river otter, these are going to be dynamic and immersive environments so that you really do have that quality experience when you come and enjoy what we are going to be building and offering to our community. And then just making sure that animal well-being is always first and foremost in how we design these exhibits so that these animals do have an enriching life and are happy, which is hard to measure, but I still think there'll be science as to measure happiness in animals someday.
Happy animals.
Yeah, happy animals,
Oh my
right?
gosh, I love that. Time for one more question from the audience before I ask my last question. Well, hi, Matt Paulson. Would you like to ask a question?
I would. So obviously one of the big challenges with the initial idea for the new Butterfly House Aquarium was fundraising. You didn't quite get there with the capital campaign. Now we're being presented, here's this big new vision of what we could build at the zoo. So if, fundraising was a challenge before, and now there's going to be a bigger, more expensive vision for the new campus, what does the feasibility of that look like? What makes you ladies believe like the money is going to be there now when it hasn't been there before?
I think timing is everything. And I think being able to show the vision of what this could be and how we can better meet the community's needs, but also positioning ourselves to be that sought after destination in our state of South Dakota, I think is another opportunity we have that not just for the city of Sioux Falls, but also for the greater state of itself. And so it really comes down to timing. It comes down to the vision. As Audrey said, and I can't speak too much on yet because we're still too early in those conversations, is we are garnering a lot of attention from people that can provide some impactful momentum for what we are looking to bring to our great city of Sioux Falls. The other thing I want to also just really quick champion is if you want to Google something, Greensboro Science Center is what I think is the most comparable type of a business as to what we are looking to create. And I say comparable because it's not a cookie cutter by any means. But Greensboro Science Center was a small science center with about 65,000 people coming in annual attendance. They completely transformed their entire campus. They added a small zoo, a small aquarium. They bolstered their science center to better meet the needs of their community. They are now serving 500,000 people annually, and this is over 15 years, that amount of growth. And they went from a very small budget to, I think they're pushing a $30 million budget right now. So I think my biggest thing that I wanted to share that with you is this can happen. It's doable. And they went from a very unknown science center to one of the top 5 tourist destinations in North Carolina. And I see that as our opportunity. But we're not going to be them. We're going to be us. And that's one thing that Audrey and I feel very strong on, is we want this to be indicative of our community.
Well, I certainly want to give each of you an opportunity to say one last thing. So you each get 35 seconds. What do you want to make sure downtown Rotarians know about the new Sioux Falls Zoo and Aquarium?
One thing we didn't elaborate on is that 10-year plan. And Angela asked a little bit about what is that 10 years look like. We see the addition of the aquarium and the Butterfly House on the zoo campus as a way to rebrand and re-identify the organization, but it's also going to give us the momentum to continue to make improvements across the zoo campus. So phase 2, after the Butterfly House and Aquarium are added and our education center is added, is rejuvenation. So we'll be looking at addressing the aged infrastructure throughout the zoo so that we can see the primates and the penguins and the red pandas and the prairie cabin be addressed as well. So when we talk about reimagining the zoo to create the zoo and aquarium. It's not just we're going to add an aquarium and butterfly house and be done. In fact, the operational feasibility study that we did showed that the most successful model is for us to get this new addition added to create that excitement and buy-in and motivation to have more support of the zoo and aquarium. But it's those ongoing improvements that are what's going to keep that business model growing and successful. And so I'm excited about that. Of course, I'm excited to see aquariums and butterflies built in a bigger, better way. But to see this entirely reimagined attraction that is so valuable to our community is when we're 10 years, 12 years out looking at it, that's the whole picture, not just those two new fun things.
Well, Becky, she took your 35 seconds.
took
but
it.
If you're cool with that being
Yeah.
our bookend to our time, I'm so grateful. I enjoyed this very much. Please help me thank both of them for being here.
Thank you, Becky and Audrey, and thank you, Cindy. Looking ahead to next week, we are going to have a conversation on proactive policing, engaging our community's youth. In the meantime, have a great week. We look forward to seeing you back here next Monday. Thanks.